Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome again to Syriana Analysis. I'm your host, Kevork Almassian. Thank you very much for tuning in to today's live streaming. I appreciate you all. I can read your comments. Salams are coming from different types, different parts of the world, and also some of the comments about Elon Musk and Ben Shapiro. And I myself, I'm not really shocked of Elon Musk's new attitude and what is he doing recently in regards to the policy on X or his visits to Israel, and now he's been accompanied by Ben Shapiro. But today, in this live streaming, we are going to divide this live streaming as usual to different parts. At the beginning, I learned myself today a new information, and accordingly, I learned a new lesson from history in Chile. And this has also increased my conviction and emboldened my conviction that my promotion for a multipolar world is a correct one. And I become more enthusiastic about a multipolar world based on this historical lesson that I'm going to tell you in this live streaming. Then we are going to address that the Israeli occupation forces, they received the biggest blow since the start of the acts of hostilities between Hamas and the Israeli forces inside Gaza. And we're going to speak about the morale of the normal Israeli people inside Israel. We're going to address the Israeli offer to Hamas, that they have made a new offer for exchanging prisoners and the cessation of hostilities, etc. I'm going to also tell you about the idea of the foreign minister of Israel to settle the Palestinians on an artificial island in the Mediterranean. So brace yourself for that. And we will also speak about Elon Musk's, of course, position on Israel-Palestine and whether he is being compromised by the Israeli lobby or the Zionist lobby. I'm sorry that I'm touching my nose. I feel like I'm going to sneeze because of the light on my face. And the last part of this live streaming is going to be a comparison between two women, one of which is a based woman, as we say. Her name is Dr. Miriam Francois. And the second one is not really based, and she is AOC. And we will compare the language and the principles of these two women. What did Miriam Francois recently said, I think on Sky News, and what did AOC said in one of the podcasts in this regard. So I wrote this lesson that I learned today about Chile. So I'm going to share with you. I'm going just to put my mobile here. So the lesson that I learned about Chile is that 50 years ago, a brutal coup brought an end to the stability of one of Latin America's strongest democracies, plunging Chile into a dark era of 17 years under merciless dictatorship. During this time, the people of Chile were deprived of their right to vote, and the entire society was subjected to a militarized regime. The CIA played a significant role in orchestrating the downfall of democratically elected socialist leader Salvador Allende, paving the way for the rise of an oppressive right-wing dictatorship led by General Augusto Pinochet. Back then, the Nixon administration made sure to create a coup climate as soon as Mr. Allende won the presidential election in September 1970, according to declassified US documents. Over the course of almost 17 years, General Pinochet wielded immense political and military authority, bearing the ultimate responsibility for the extensive human rights abuses perpetrated by the armed forces and covert intelligence agencies under his command, all while the US continued to interfere in Chile's and Latin America's affairs, influenced by Cold War ideologies. You may ask why I'm telling you this historical event today. The reason is that the Chilean authorities a few days ago inaugurated the country's first high-speed train service built by China's top train manufacturer, called Sifang. The train connects Santiago with Curico in 2 hours and 3 minutes at a maximum speed of 160 km per hour. Curico is a rich agricultural production area known for its wine cellars. It's a historic moment, not just for Chile, but for all of Latin America. For the very first time, a train with such remarkable features is being introduced for commercial use. It's truly remarkable to see China, a rising superpower, stepping in and offering an alternative model to the United States. It's worth noting that it was Washington that supported dictator Augusto Pinochet's rise to power in the 70s, leading to the dismantling of Chile's once sophisticated rail network. Is the US capable of learning from its mistakes, though? Unfortunately, it seems unlikely, considering that American forces are currently bombing Yemen as we speak. The US seems to adhere to the belief that if all they have is a hammer, every problem will be seen as a nail. So this is what I learned today. Maybe some of you already know if you're from Latin America. Excuse my ignorance. I wasn't aware about this coup that happened in the 70s in Chile. I'm aware that the United States was intervening in the affairs of the Latin America during the Cold War era, and they were installing dictatorships there against the socialists and the communists in order to counter the Soviet influence in Latin America. But I didn't know, for example, that what happened in Chile led to the rise of a dictatorship to power where even elections were not held in this country. And this guy, Pinochet, he dismantled the railways of Chile, whereas now in 2024, by the way, China won. There was like different companies come and they present their plans, and the Chinese won that competition. And Chile said, okay, China, build us the fast train railways. And it was the inauguration this week. Why I'm bringing this? Because nowadays, when we speak about a multipolar world, we want to also speak about what the alternative powers are about, the Chinese and the Russians. What different model are they presenting? It's not because I like the political system in China or I like the political system in Russia. I'm a foreigner. I don't live in China and I don't live in China, Russia or China, right? Therefore, what really concerns me and interests me, what is the approach of these countries toward me as a citizen living nowadays, whether in Germany, I'm a Syrian migrant living in Germany, or probably in the future living in any other place around the world. Therefore, my concern is, and my interest is to have a freedom to have my own way of life and also the freedom, or I don't want any other country to come and install a leader for me. I want for the superpowers to deal with me as peers, respect my sovereignty, and also help me with my infrastructure. Because when you have functioning infrastructure, this will also lead to better social services for the people. And when you have a better social services, you have more production in the country. And when you have more production in the country, you have more money in the country. And when you have more money in the country, more people will elevate themselves to the middle class. And when you have more middle class in the country, then you have a healthy, functioning society. So that is why I support multipolarity, because what I see from the Chinese, what are they doing in Africa, and how are they helping now countries in Latin America, it's really inspiring. And I hope one day that the Americans learn something, but it seems that it's not the case. And as we speak, the Americans are bombing Yemen again, and Biden was asked if these strikes against the Ansarullah movement is changing anything, and he said no. So why is he continuing the bombardment campaign against Yemen if it's not working? This is something that, as I told you, like when they see every problem as a nail, then every solution is a hammer, right? And now, but we have Donald Trump. He's jumping this wagon to criticize his opponent. Of course, his opponent, Joe Biden. And he says the following. He says, now we are getting involved in the Middle East. Look what's happening. Here we go again with the Middle East. We spent $9 trillion, killed millions of people. You know what we got? Nothing. You got death. You got blood. You got nothing.
We wanted to stop terror from coming into our country, but I couldn't talk about it because I didn't want to do that. And then the following day, something happens. So I went 4 years keeping my mouth shut on that particular subject. But now I talk about it all the time. We had no attacks. We didn't have a World Trade Center. We didn't have the attacks like you've seen, and certainly that you see in other countries. And by the way, now we're getting involved again in the Middle East. Look what's happening. You're getting involved. Here we go again with the Middle East. We spent $9 trillion, killed millions of people, including our side, their side, millions of people. $9 trillion. You know what we got? Nothing. Nothing. You got death, you got blood, you got nothing. And it just, we spent our blood and our treasure, as they say, our blood and our treasure. And our blood is more important than our treasure. And it's a shame. It's a shame. I beat ISIS. You're right. Thank you for telling me that. You're right. I was getting to that, but it's very good. He's sharp, this one. Thank you. We did. We beat the hell out of ISIS. It was supposed to take 4 to 5 years. We got it done in 4 months, I'd say. 4 months. 100% of the ISIS caliphate.
I mean, as one of the commentators said, he's trying to get the votes, right? And I'm not here to promote any candidate in the United States. I know that the electoral system, and I know that the military-industrial complex, and I know the Silicon Valley, and I know the oligarchs, and I know how corrupted is the system itself. It's compromised. Whoever comes to the presidency, he will not have a free hand to implement his vision. So even if I suppose that Trump has a good will to end these wars, whether it's in the Middle East or in Ukraine or with China, and he wants to take care of his people, he's not allowed to do that, and he cannot do that. And I didn't say he has a good will, because remember what happened under Trump. Under Trump bombed Syria multiple times, accusing Syria of using chemical weapons even before the investigation, which later we concretely and evidently knew that it was a fake attacks and never happened. And 2, he assassinated the commander of Al-Quds Brigade in the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, Qasem Soleimani, and he almost caused a direct confrontation with Iran. He imposed draconian sanctions on the Syrian people, which is economic warfare. He plotted with the CIA for a coup in Venezuela, and he canceled and put the nuclear deal with Iran on the shelf, and he started again trade war with China. So Trump is not really so much different than the other candidates. But of course, nowadays, Joe Biden, he's rightfully called a genocide Joe, because he's complicit with the genocide in the Gaza Strip, right? The question here is, if the president was Donald Trump nowadays, what would have been the situation in the Gaza Strip? Would have been different? I really doubt that. I think everyone nowadays, whether they're candidates or they're politicians, the congressmen, congresswomen, and even billionaires like Elon Musk, they have to show sympathy, and they have to show solidarity, and they have to be biased to or in favor of Israel. Otherwise, the Israeli lobby and the Zionist lobby in the United States, they will make sure that these people would never be elected again or lose their wealth. And this is probably the reason why Elon Musk is bowing to Israel. But we're coming to that later. And now Israel received its biggest blow since the beginning of these hostilities against Hamas in the Gaza Strip. And this is reported yesterday, which is a huge news, by the way, guys. We have to speak about it. They say RPG fired at tank. Let me just first remove this so that I can show you in a bigger site. Yes. So RPG fired at tank triggers explosion, killing Israeli soldiers in Gaza. The Israeli army says 21 soldiers have been killed in central Gaza, the deadliest day for its forces since the war began. The 21 soldiers were killed at the same time, in the same position, and in the same place in the Gaza Strip. It said the soldiers were preparing explosives to demolish 2 buildings on Monday when a rocket-propelled grenade was fired at a nearby tank, setting off the explosion prematurely and causing the buildings to collapse on them. We are still studying and investigating the details of the event and the reason for the explosion, Israeli military spokesman Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari told reporters. This is the statement.
אני מבקש הבוקר לעדכן אתכם באירוע קשה מאוד שאירע אתמול. במהלך הלחימה במרכז רצועת עזה נפלו 21 לוחמי מילואים. הכוחות פעלו במרחב שחוצץ בין היישובים הישראלים בעזה בסמוך ליישוב כיסופים. לפי הידוע לנו בשלב זה, סביב השעה 4, ככל הנראה נורה טיל RPG על ידי מחבלים לעבר טנק שיפתח את הכוח. ובמקביל לכך אירע פיצוץ של 2 מבנים דו-קומתיים. המבנים קרסו כתוצאה מהפיצוץ הזה, בשעה שמרבית הכוח נמצא בתוכם.
I really don't know if what he says is accurate 100%, but whatever is the truth, over 20 Israeli soldiers, when they get killed in one place, in one gathering, and all together, I think this is a huge military failure and tactical failure, military failure for the Israeli forces. And they should have taken a precaution for that. And a country like Israel, which claims that it has the most advanced and the best army in the region, when they receive such a blow, it will affect on the reputation of the army and also on the morale of the soldiers and the people. Because remember, the initial narrative was that this will take around 1 month, right? Like they will start on October 15 or 18 or 19 or 20th, and in one month at the end of the year they will be finished, right, with Hamas, and they will conquer all of Gaza, etc. But now we are almost 4 months to these hostilities, and the Israelis are still suffering casualties in the Gaza Strip, and they are withdrawing even from important areas in the northern part. Because remember, I told you from the beginning, guys, when you occupy a place, and this is what I learned from the Syrian war, even if you occupy a certain geographical area, that doesn't mean that you can fixate in that area. Those are two different things. Like you can occupy the area, but you have to stay in the area. But if you are in an area that is exposed to sniping, exposed to RPGs, exposed to your enemy, and they can hit you, whether by mortars, by RPGs, or by snipers, or by anything, then I think this could be a trap. And this was a lot of military experts were warning Israel that the adventure to the Gaza Strip is not going to be an easy one. And as much as they destroy the buildings, the Hamas militants and Jihad militants will use the destruction of these buildings to hide behind them, snipe their enemies, come out from the tunnels, kill them, and go down to the tunnels. It's not easy for the Israeli side, in my opinion, and they're paying a huge price now for Netanyahu's stubbornness, because in my opinion he was able to liberate the hostages through negotiations, but he refused, and he went to this and caused this carnage in the Gaza Strip. And now he is posting this. He says, "Yesterday we experienced one of the most difficult days since the outbreak of the war. I wish to strengthen the dear families of our heroic warriors who fell on the battlefield. I know that for these families their lives will be changed forever. I mourn for our fallen heroic soldiers. I hug the families in their time of need, and we all pray for the peace of our wounded. The IDF has launched an investigation into the disaster. We must draw the necessary lessons and do everything to preserve the lives of our warriors. In the name of our heroes, for the sake of our lives, we will not stop fighting until the absolute victory." And why I'm showing you this tweet, because I wanted to see what the people say, right? The Israeli people, because it interests me. He says, to check the morale, and this is the most liked, for example, comment. He says, "Announce your resignation and the date for the election, and free the people of Israel from you and your poisonous presence. You are the main person responsible for the terrible situation that Israel has now found itself, for this never-ending nightmare, for the bottomless black pit. For years, you nurtured, financed, and strengthened Hamas. The blood of the victims are all at your hands. Stop lying to the citizens of Israel. Go already, go, for God's sake." This is the most liked comment. So this one, he says, "You are a clearly incompetent narcissist, psychopath, and sadist who is incapable of empathy. The empty words you spew out of your filthy, poisonous mouth mean nothing. The regime headed by you is a disturbed regime that craves death and bereavement, and brings only death and bereavement. You will end up in jail. Crazy criminal." Those are all Israelis, by the way. It's not like Arabs are commenting, Like, look, You have already burned the country. You can move abroad. Yildiz has already prepared a house in Miami. The bank accounts in Panama are already full. Here, only cemeteries will be named after you. Even hell will be a gift for you. Wow. And the people are even telling him, like, where is your son? You know, like, you sent other people's sons to get killed. This is a little bit over 18, maybe, with lots of cursings in it. But you can see the general mood, right? You are responsible for this blood spilled. You must be held accountable. So the morale in Israel is very low. And I have always, when I want to check what's happening, this doesn't show you the entire picture, but on X, where else you can find the public opinion in Israel, right? You're not going to go and ask every one of them, but you can scroll and read tens of comments, and there is like a consensus in Israel to blame Netanyahu for what happened on October 7, the aftermath of October 7, which the hostages, and the strategy of Netanyahu in the Gaza Strip and the negotiations with the Hamas side, refusing to agree on a permanent ceasefire to release the hostages. However, now the Israelis, they probably changed their mind slightly about the deal with Hamas, but will Hamas accept this deal? This is a scoop by Axios that they are telling us that there is this scoop. Israel proposed 2-month fighting pause in Gaza for release of all hostages. Let's see what's the details. Israel has given Hamas a proposal through Qatari and Egyptian mediators that includes up to 2 months of a pause in the fighting as part of a multi-phase deal that would include the release of all remaining hostages held in Gaza, two Israeli officials said. Why this news matters, guys? Because while the proposal doesn't include an agreement to end the war, it's the longest period of ceasefire that Israel has offered Hamas since the start of the war. If you remember, in the last pause, it was how many days? 5 days? This is 2 months of a pause in exchange for the release of all the hostages and prisoners of war from Hamas. And I want to tell you something, guys. During all these months, 4 months, Israel succeeded to free 0 number of hostages or prisoners of war from Hamas custodies. They couldn't free them because Netanyahu said, we will free them with military means. And they couldn't do that. The only way they were able to free the hostages or any prisoner of war was through negotiations. And this was the case when in 2006, Hezbollah kidnapped Israeli soldiers. And this was the case when Hamas kidnapped previously, I think his name was Gilad Shalit, in 2006, 7, I don't remember, something like that, yeah. The only way all these non-state actors like Hamas and Hezbollah said that Israel can take back their prisoner of war or hostage is through negotiations, indirect negotiations. But Israel refused that. And they went to this war against and killed now 25,000 people. And now they're offering again a similar, like a deal that they could have done it in October or November 2023. So what's happening behind the scenes? Two Israeli officials said the Israeli War Cabinet approved 10 days ago the parameters of a new proposal for a hostage deal, which are different from past aspects of deals rejected by Hamas and more forward-leaning than previous Israeli proposals. So what is the details? Israeli officials said they are waiting for a response from Hamas, but stressed they are cautiously optimistic about the ability to make progress in the coming days. According to the proposal, the deal would include the release of all remaining hostages who are alive and the return of the bodies of dead hostages in several phases. The first phase would see the release of women, men over the age of 60 years old, and hostages who are in critical medical condition, the official said. The next phase would include the release of female soldiers, men under the age of 60 years old who are not soldiers, and finally Israeli male soldiers and the bodies of hostages. Under the proposal deal, Israel and Hamas would agree in advance on how many Palestinian prisoners would be released for each Israeli hostage in each category, and then separate negotiations on the names of these prisoners would take place. The Israeli officials said the proposal includes Israel redeploying Israeli defense forces so that some would be moved out of main population centers in the enclave and allowing a gradual return of Palestinian civilians to Gaza City and the northern Gaza Strip as the deal is being implemented. The Israeli officials said the proposal makes clear Israel will not agree to end the war and will not agree to release all 6,000 Palestinian prisoners from Israeli prisoners. So like they call the Palestinians prisoners, but the Israelis are hostages. Anyways, if the deal is implemented, Israeli forces operations in Gaza would be significantly smaller in scope and intensity after the 2-month pause in fighting. So Israel is offering Hamas a new deal. They say Hamas should release the hostages and the prisoners of war in few phases, in a few stages, beginning women and men over 60 years old and those who are in critical medical condition. And then they will release the men who are over 60 years old and some of the female soldiers. And finally, they will release the soldiers, the male soldiers. And in exchange, they will agree how many Palestinian hostages will be released. They're not going to release all of them. And Israel will change the type of the warfare against Gaza, and it will be more targeted, but only for 2 months. So I don't know about you. What do you think about this deal, guys? Do you think that the Palestinian factions will accept it? Do you think 2 months is enough? Pause. Do you think that the Palestinians should accept such a deal? I don't know. Like, personally, I see that anything less than a permanent ceasefire, it's just a play. And the Israelis can manipulate it. And they could continue the hostilities, they could continue the bombardment, they could continue the killing, they could continue taking hostages. And I mean, they are releasing some hostages in West Bank and they are arresting 50 more. So what's the end game here? I think what Saudi Arabian foreign minister said in this regard, that's the most convenient way. There shouldn't be a return to the status quo of 7th of October. There should be a permanent solution, and they should be the root cause of the problem should be solved. Otherwise, this is going to be just a repetition of similar events for another few decades. So I am on the side of the argument that says this has to be solved in its root causes. And without solving the occupation and the segregation and the oppression and the subjugation and the humiliation of the Palestinians, there is not going to be a solution. So first, the Israelis have to accept to end the occupation. And it's not like, this is not rocket science, in my opinion. If they don't end the occupation, this will continue, unfortunately, for another few decades. And if it's Hamas is gone, there's going to be another group. And every time Israelis will say this group is a terrorist group, they said the same thing about the PLO. They said about the same thing about the left wing, the communists, the right wing, the Islamists. Everyone which fought against the Israelis were considered terrorists, right? So better solve the root cause of the problem. And the thing is that such a proposal is being given to the Palestinians, and at the same time, at the same moment, the Israelis are speaking about something else with the Europeans, right? So on one hand, in public, they're saying something, but behind closed doors, they're saying something different. And this is the Israeli foreign minister. He suggests Palestinians could live on an artificial island of Gaza. Israeli foreign minister, his name is Israel Katz, has suggested that Gaza's population could be transferred to an artificial island in the Mediterranean Sea, The Guardian reported on Monday. Citing unnamed sources, the London-based newspaper said that Katz's proposal has caused dismay in Brussels, where the Israeli minister was meeting EU foreign ministers to discuss a comprehensive peace plan. Israel's Jerusalem Post news site reported that cuts showed the European Foreign Ministers' Council video clips of an artificial island off Gaza's coast, as well as a proposed railway connecting Israel with Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Bahrain, and the UAE. Crazy, right? On one hand, they're telling, let's deal with and agree on a ceasefire agreement for 2 months, and we will try to redeploy from northern Gaza, and we will minimize the acts of hostilities. It will be more targeted, this and that. And then they're planning, they're proposing the resettlement of the Palestinians, not to the Sinai this time, because the Egyptians said, no, that's not going to happen. But they're going to build an artificial island off the coast in the Gaza Strip and asking the people to live there. The 2 million they're going to transfer there. And the Israeli foreign minister even proposed that there should be an international force guarding the island so that the Palestinians would not come and try to attack Israel again. I mean, these people are, I don't know, they're crazy, man. Like sometimes I try to analyze, but there are also mental illnesses there, right? And these people, they have some really psychotic problems, and I truly believe they're ill-minded people. Guys, around 270 people watching this live streaming. I would truly appreciate it if you click on the like button now while you're watching. It would really attract more people to join this live streaming, and also when the live streaming is over, more people will see this live streaming and this content on their timeline. I would really appreciate it. And now we're moving to where? To Elon Musk. Elon Musk, my friends, Elon Musk. This is something that bothered me a little bit. Not because he went there, but because he went with this small guy. And I'm not speaking about his height. I'm speaking about him as a person. Ben Shapiro. Oof, it's difficult, man. It's difficult. Let's watch this reportage first. And you have to read the titles. There are titles on this reportage, so you have to read it to understand what's happening.
Here's now divided into smaller sectors. So I mentioned the story of a family camp. There was a family camp for Sinti and Roma people here. Again, the Germans didn't want to separate them.
לנשמות 6 מיליוני אחינו בני ישראל, אנשים, נשים, ילדים.
So the main reason why he went, okay, what's happening here? Anyways, the main reason why he went there, because he was accused of being an anti-Semite. He was accused of allowing anti-Semitic content on his platform. They say Elon Musk, who has been accused of allowing anti-Semitic messages on his social media platform, X visited the site of the Auschwitz death camp on Monday, saying afterwards that the tragedy of the Holocaust hits you much more in the heart when you see it in person. Musk toured the most notorious extermination camp established by Nazi Germany during World War II before attending a conference on anti-Semitism organized by the European Jewish Association in the nearby Polish city Krakow. He admitted to having been naive about the extent of anti-Semitism until recently, saying that is because most of his friends are Jewish and he has had little contact with it in his own life. This is what he said in this regard.
Yeah, I grew up around a lot of Jewish people. I went to Hebrew preschool, Rachel Spiro in South Africa. My name is very Jewish.
I will tell you that for the past 10 years, people have assumed in my community that you were Jewish until I informed them otherwise.
Yeah.
Elon is a pretty Jewish name.
He's super Jewish.
Yeah.
And then I went to Israel when I was 13. Visited Masada. I'm certainly checking the boxes on a lot of things. Like you said, most of my friends are Jewish, just worked out that way. So sometimes I guess maybe I forget. Am I Jewish? I'm Jewish. Aspirationally Jewish.
So personally, of course, I think what happened to the Jewish people was horrendous. It was a Holocaust, mass murder of the Jewish people. It was anti-Semitism in Europe. What I oppose in 2024 is using the suffering and capitalizing on the suffering of the Jewish people in the past to justify what's happening now in 2024 and 2023. And because Elon Musk has made some stupid comments on Twitter and X, and there are increasing number of activists from the United States, from different parts of the world, who are actively opposing Israel and the Zionists in the United States and what they are doing in Palestine on X. Therefore, he has been accused of allowing anti-Semitic content on his X account. And you know, the definition of anti-Semitism has become so loose and broad, and anyone who criticizes the policy of Israel can be called an anti-Semite, right? So he started losing the advertisers on his platform, and the ADL jumped the wagon. Other Apple and other major corporations jumped the wagon. And Elon Musk was like, you remember, like, oh, fuck your money, blah, blah, blah. But seriously speaking, he's losing money and he's losing advertisers, and this platform functions on advertising, right? And we, the people who are paying for the blue check marks, are being suppressed now. Like, we're paying money to get suppressed. It's ironic, right? And people are getting banned. Their accounts are being suspended. And only the people who have big accounts and big following, those who are making an uproar, making a big, let's say, hype about, or not hype, like uproar about it on the X, tagging Elon Musk every day and every hour, asking for releasing people from the suspension prison. These people are getting back because of the uproar, because so many people want to leave the platform if he does and continues suppressing people's opinions. And please don't get me wrong. My opinion is that it's legitimate to criticize the policy of Israel. It is, however, hate speech if you are just hating against the Jewish people for the sake of being just born as a Jew, right? This is the distinction. And therefore, my position is very clear. I oppose the occupation, I oppose the policy, I oppose the extermination of the Palestinians, whoever is the perpetrator. If they were Hindu, if they were Armenian, like myself, I would be opposed, right? So that's not my position. That's a position of someone who is critical of the Israeli policy. And I don't care about all these religions and stuff. I'm not into religions. I don't want to dive into so much religion. And I just believe that everyone has the right to believe in whatever religion they want and respect my freedom of adopting any religion I want or not adopting any religion I want, right? I just want to thank Daniela for her generous support. She says, late to the show, thank you for your work. It's a really pleasure. And I consider this like a duty. And at the same time, it's like, I feel like I have a mission to deliver messages and to analyze for the people, to enlighten the people. And also at the same time, I consider it a career. Like, I'm investing in this a lot. And that's why I'm very thankful for you guys that you are joining me every day and helping the growth of my channel by liking, sharing the content, and even by becoming a patron on Patreon or supporting me through PayPal and all this stuff. Thank you so much. But we're speaking about this case. There was historically anti-Semitism, and it ended up with massacres against the Jewish people during World War II. And after that, there is an attempt by the Israeli state to capitalize on this suffering of the Jewish people to justify its own policies nowadays, right? And this was something explained brilliantly by Norman Finkelstein, whose parents survived the Auschwitz, the same place where Elon Musk visited this week, right? So I'm not going to use all the bad words here. I'm not going to use all the bad words here. I just say Elon Musk visiting Auschwitz together with genocidal Zionist Ben Shapiro shows what Norman Finkelstein, whose own parents were survivors of Auschwitz and Majdanek concentration camps, called the Holocaust industry in all its grotesque depravity. Let's take a look together.
I was wondering if you could tell us what the Holocaust industry is.
Basically, it's the exploitation of the colossal suffering of Jews during World War II for political and then for a certain period financial gain. The political gain was basically using the Nazi Holocaust as a club to silence criticism of Israel. And at some point, this Holocaust compensation racket, the extraction of monies from European governments in the name of what were called needy Holocaust victims, began. And several, I think the figure comes now to about $20 billion, were coerced from European governments, mostly on fraudulent grounds. And then there's all of this schlock nonsense, which basically is used to defend Israel and deflect criticism of Israeli policy. You can usually tell this literature because it asserts or insists on the absolute uniqueness of the Nazi Holocaust, the claim that no people in the history of humanity have ever suffered the way Jews suffered. And that's clearly an ideological claim. You can't intellectually prove things like that, and it's almost absurd to want to prove them. The purpose is fairly straightforward. That is, if people have uniquely suffered, then they can't be held to conventional moral and legal standards. So, for example, if you say that Israel tortures Palestinian detainees, well, then you're told, remember the Holocaust. Or if you're told that Israel illegally demolishes the homes of Palestinians, you're told, remember the Holocaust. The point being that because Jews suffered uniquely, it somehow excuses these, by any other standard, crimes.
Just for you to know, guys, this is the book of Norman Finkelstein, The Holocaust Industry, and he explains in length and in detail about the exploitation of the suffering of his parents first and millions of other Jewish people nowadays in 2024. And this book is brilliant. I have read it, I think, 2012, 2013. I don't really remember, but I have read it so long time ago, and I will put this link, by the way, of the book after this live streaming is over in the comment section, and I will pin it. So if you want to buy it, you can read it. It's a brilliant book, written by a son of a Holocaust survivor from Auschwitz, and I think it's worth listening to him. I've been in touch, by the way, with Norman Finkelstein since I was very young. I think I was 21 years old or 20 years old. I used to exchange emails with him. And when I was doing my master's degree, 22 years old, actually, And I used to exchange with him articles about Palestine and Syria. And then I met him in Beirut. Actually, that was before. It was 2008. I was still doing my bachelor degree. I was exchanging emails with him between 2008 and 2010, and then I met him first time in 2011 in Beirut in a conference. And he saw me and he was like, that's you, Kevork. Finally, we met. And we had a really nice conversation. He's a really great guy, in my opinion. And his opinion is worth reading and listening and taking into consideration. And I think he has lots of academic background, especially when it comes to the case of the Palestinian suffering, and especially that he's a scholar on Gaza. Now, since we're speaking about Elon Musk, my friend, he made a video about it. I want to show you. I wanted to cut it or show some part of it, but I think it's hilariously made, so I cannot really cut any parts of it. I think we have to watch it together because he's really ranting, and people are like him, are very mad and angry. Those who are pro-Palestinian of what Elon Musk did in this regard, not because he went to Auschwitz, which is a noble thing to do, but about the timing and the using of the suffering, as I told you, of the Jewish people in the past to capitalize on what's happening nowadays and to justify the Israeli onslaught against Gaza.
Elon Musk joins Ben Shapiro on a random trip to Auschwitz. That's right, while Israel is literally committing a genocide, Zionists decide to drag Elon Musk to Auschwitz because they accuse him of allowing anti-Semitic messages on X, the social media platform that he owns. And just in case you're trying to keep score, yes, Elon Musk has been to Israel, and now he has been to Auschwitz. And no, he has not been to West Bank or Gaza since this conflict started. And if there was a museum to commemorate all of the atrocities that Palestinians have experienced at the hands of Israel, it ain't like he would be able to visit anyway, because fucking Israel probably already blew it up. But my question is, what more do y'all want from Elon? The man has already banned and throttled phrases like from the river to the sea from X. He's already suspended people and throttled people for calling others Zionists. I mean, what else do y'all want? He's doing everything y'all tell him to do. And while he is throttling pro-Palestine, pro-Gaza posts, he is simultaneously not penalizing officials or news personalities who are publishing lies that are pro-Israel on social media or outright calling for genocide. And my thing is, do these Zionists think that visiting Auschwitz is supposed to be some type of gotcha? Most of the Jews who were subject to Auschwitz and survived rebuke everything that Israel has done to the Palestinian peoples, comparing it to the experience they had at the hands of Nazi Germany. I mean, you really have the European Jewish Association taking Elon to Auschwitz like there's a lesson to be learned there about this Israel-Gaza conflict, at least one that would actually benefit Zionists, while you simultaneously have a German Jew from Europe who's a contributor to the largest Jewish newspaper in Germany saying that there are no innocent civilians in Gaza. Mind you, the same writer says that there's a such thing as collective punishment or collective responsibility for crimes, then this applies to October 7th, not realizing at all how fucking ironic that statement actually is. I promise you, if you look up the birth certificates of most Zionists, every single one of them motherfuckers say they were born at 12:01 a.m. on October 7th. Because to them, October 6th and everything before that never existed. Listen, Elon, I need you to stop and use your noggin for a second. Right now, bro. Israel's being charged with war crimes and genocide in the ICJ. So, if Hitler were alive today, or if this ICJ were to be trying Hitler in Germany right after World War II, exactly which side do you think Hitler in Germany would fall on? The defendant or the prosecution?
Yep. That's a really amazing rant by Real Nico. He was my guest on Syriana Analysis a few weeks ago. And I think this was one of his best when he was very angry about this case. And he's being he's making good points, right? And at the current moment, now in 2024, if there was a case in front of the ICJ, who would have stood in front of the ICJ? Hitler, right? So who would you go and show solidarity with at that moment? Elon Musk. I'm very frustrated at him, but I'm not shocked, I think that as a customers on X, we deserve more respect. We deserve respecting our intelligence and our brains, and not to fool us and tell us that you are an freedom of speech absolutist, and then you censor people. And there are even people nowadays trying to prove on X that if you use certain words on X, the content will be or the tweet will be suppressed and shadow banned, like genocide, for example, during these times. So he and his team are resorting to the similar tactics nowadays to the previous administration. And he told us that he will buy X to save freedom of speech in the United States, something that many people naively believed. I was one of the people that I was telling myself, it can't be any worse, right? The previous administration of Twitter were the worst of the worst. I was myself shadow banned for my entire existence on Twitter. And my X was not growing. And since Elon Musk took power at the beginning, probably there was not so much shadow banning. And I realized that for 10 years, I gained, not 10 years, 7 years, I gained 33,000 subscribers or followers on X. And since Elon Musk took over Twitter, my account has become like 85,000 followers, and it jumped 3 times, right? But now it's becoming less, and every time I post that, I see that the tweets are getting so much less views and insights than they used to be previously. In this live streaming, I promise you that I'm going to compare 2 women together, one of which is a based woman. Her name is Dr. Miriam Francois, and she was on a TV channel, Sky News, and I downloaded the video and I increased the volume of the video because it was very low for you guys. And I want you to watch this video because this is a soul-based moment, and I think that she rocked. She rocked it, and she delivered the message and exposed the idiocy and the evilness behind the talks that, oh my God, we have to hit the Houthis because we have to save trade, right? Take a look.
Dr. Francois, I mean, there are many who are saying that, frankly, the Biden administration should have acted sooner and faster, that hundreds of billions of dollars has been put at risk because the Houthis have held this area in the Red Sea at ransom.
Sorry, so just let me get this straight, Yalda. So we are bombing one of the poorest countries in the world that has been under a humanitarian blockade. There has been famine. These people have been decimated, and we are bombing them because a couple of guys in dinghies in support for the Palestinians who are having a genocide committed against them. They're objecting to that, and we're bombing them. Come on now. I mean, this is just an insane world for us to even think. I'm so sorry your Amazon packages are delayed. I really am. Like, I wish mine came on time. But, you know, genocide, guys, genocide. There are 2 mothers a day dying in Gaza right now. It's 109 days into a conflict in which a humanitarian crisis has been declared to the world day day out.
By the way, Dr. Francois, there are many who are Yemen watchers who monitor and follow the Houthis who say this is doing wonders for their branding, actually, that it isn't just the Palestinian cause that they're focused on.
So call a ceasefire now and end the positive branding. If you want to stop the Houthis doing what they're doing, then call a ceasefire right now.
The Houthis would stop doing what they're doing?
They have literally said that that's why they're doing what they're doing. They have not previously blocked those routes for any other reason except this one. So yes, I do. And I also think the West needs to start to understand that you can't just go around playing cowboys in the world. There are consequences to your actions. You cannot just go around bombing people's countries, ignoring international law and expect no repercussions. For every cause, there is a consequence. And just because you don't like a couple of guys trying to resist,
I mean, these are now prescribed terrorists.
Sure, according to Western governments.
Well, also according to the Yemeni people.
Yeah, which is a Saudi-backed government, which is essentially our...
But the Yemenis who live, under Houthi rule talk about the fact that this group continues to terrorize them as well.
Yeah, I'm no fan of the Houthis, apart from when they're blockading in favor of a ceasefire, which should have been called a long time ago.
Bill, brother, I'm just going to bring you into the conversation.
We started the whole conversation an hour ago about how you can't afford housing and your generation and so on and so forth. These people are creating a total trade blockade, which is causing inflation, which is causing all sorts of problems to everybody.
25,000 people are dead in Gaza right now. There are over 60,000 people injured with no access to food, water, aid. How dare we have a conversation about trade when there are children right now being treated without anesthetic? Well, there are things that require us to make some sacrifices, and this would be one of them.
They do have the global economy, global markets hostage.
Good for them.
Bill Brother.
Good for them. Ceasefire now.
Some of you say she's a queen, and yeah, I totally agree. I mean, she filled my heart when I watched this video, and I salute her. And I will send her an email congratulating her of this brilliant commentary and for defending justice and being on the side of the truth on this matter. And see how the other guest is speaking about housing prices, like as if all the housing prices now are increasing because of the blockade in the Red Sea, not because of their idiotic policies, inflation, printing money, lockdowns, and all the taxes that they are imposing on the middle class, on the working class, the so-called CO2 taxes and everything that they are imposing on the people. And now, how dare he come and he speak about this case as if this is the main reason for the prices of the housing are skyrocketing, right? It sickens me in the stomach when I see these people are talking about trade. And whereas thousands of people are perishing there, like for them, the cargo ships are more important than 25,000 Palestinians. And I know that they think that way and they believe in it. I've seen these people. I met these people. I've sat with these people. These people are completely morally bankrupted people. And I would oh man, I don't want to say more. It's just because some bad words will come out of my mouth. I was just checking on Rumble, and I'm having really nice also following there. And because I cannot see all the comments while I am on this software, most of the comments come only from YouTube. Yasmin says on Rumble, "Thank you, Kevork from Syria. She's Syrian, living in the United States, and her family and she are super thankful to find my incredibly insightful work, and who know what's actually going on behind the scenes." And another person, because she tipped me there $20, I would like to thank her. And then another person, his or her name is Raj Patel. "The best way to make Elon switch from Israel back to free speech is to boycott X. In the end, his advertisers would leave X because the drop in audience. I can't see how advertisers staying." Yeah, he's right. He's right. Unfortunately, many of us are paying him for the blue check, but we're paying him because if you don't pay, then the reach of your tweets and your work will be minimized. And we are investing in business. I don't go to Twitter just to scroll and waste my time. I go there to read, to learn, and to promote my work, like what I'm doing on YouTube nowadays and on Rumble. I'm also promoting there, cutting some shorter videos and posting the link so that people can come to YouTube. But most of the work is here. So please, guys, if you appreciate my work, before you leave this live streaming, please hit the like button before leaving. But because we spoke about a based woman, and now we are I'm going to show you a woman who is not based at all, and she is AOC. And listen to her and her word salad and how she still supports Joe Biden despite his complicity in what's happening in the Gaza Strip based on BS excuses. I cannot believe that she mentioned all these excuses why she still supports Biden.
Had it or hit it, Joe Biden.
Hit it. Honestly, here's the thing. I think sometimes people want electoral politics to be, we overly identify with, it's like if you vote for someone, they have to be the embodiment of you. And that's actually something that I think Donald Trump provided to a lot of people, where it's like, if you voted for him and if you were a Donald Trump person, like you want, like it symbolized so much. But I think what we have here in this situation is a more just honest thing. There are plenty of things that the president does that I completely disagree with. I think, right now what's happening in Gaza, I can't go on every single day seeing this. I don't associate myself with what's happening. But at the end of the day, we have to acknowledge that we just can't allow this fascist movement to grow in this country. And what I think is actually hopeful about our politics is that we can exist outside of electoral politics in organizing our communities and standing with our friends. And, if it's coming down to this next election, for me personally, the decision to vote is not a difficult one for me, because just because I'm voting for him doesn't mean that he embodies everything about me.
Right.
So that to me is where I'm at. But I think.
First of all, what kind of setup is this? Two women are sitting here and there is a screen behind them. It's like they're not even looking to the guest. Who told them that this looks nice? And secondly, that it's not difficult for her to make a decision to vote for Joe Biden again because she doesn't want for the fascists to come to power. Whereas Joe Biden, he embodies every aspect of fascism in terms of killing and murdering people around the world and bringing the world on the verge of a nuclear war with the Russians, and then aiding and siding with Israel in this genocidal war against the Gazans. And she's like, that doesn't mean that I agree with him on everything, but, we have to be careful because the fascists are there, And I'm not defending Donald Trump, but this is such a stupid, sorry to say, argument in this regard. And I don't know how this woman has become anyways in a position of power, and I don't know how many other men also became in a position of power nowadays. So many incompetent people are in becoming MPs, becoming congressmen, congresswomen, presidents, foreign ministers. It's hilarious. It's hilarious how this situation is so bad in terms of appointing people or selecting people in these positions in Western countries. And later she also says that Donald Trump, he represents he empowers men who are their masculinity is insecure and blah blah blah, like all this stuff. Like we have had enough of it, just be brave and oppose what Joe Biden is doing in the Gaza Strip, and you will be kicked out of your position as a congresswoman, lady. And you will lose your job. And you care about your job and about your career more than you care about anything else. You care about your pocket, you care about your money, you care about your status, and you don't give two Fs about the Palestinian people or about the Palestinian babies. That's my 2 cents. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in to today's live streaming. I appreciate you all. And I was very mad about what's happening there in Palestine, but I'm trying to really focus on the analysis and present to you quality content. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please subscribe, hit the like button, share this with your friends. And if you like to support my independent work like this one I'm doing here, you can become a patron. Link is scrolling on the screen, patreon.com/Syriana Analysis. And I will see you tomorrow at 17 Central European Time. Salam.